This is the Blooming Psyche Podcast. Grab a seat and join us as we navigate life our own way.
Now let's begin blooming our psyche. This is going to be a shorter podcast, but it's going to be on procrastination.
Yes.
A good follow through for the unconscious, subconscious, conscious mind to bring in the kind of weak points. Right, the weak points of the mind.
All right.
So first, we will have a question.
A question.
Just to guide us through to start this.
Okay, what are the hidden factors driving our procrastination habits, and how can we break free from them to unlock our full potential?
Yeah, what are the hidden factors? Let's break this down a little bit, and we'll kind of start at the top of this question. So, what are the hidden factors driving our procrastination habits? That is kind of why I'm following this through based on the kind of hidden parts of the mind, right? Because there's a lot of parts of procrastination that we don't give ourselves kind of room to see, right? And then how can that break us free and unlock our full potential? Like, obviously, that's kind of a open-ended spectrum, right? Because that's a vast thing, right? Like our full potential. However, for procrastination, it's like, why am I not doing this thing that everything in my body is telling me to do?
Yeah.
But I don't know why I'm just not doing it.
Right.
Right? And that being the hidden factor. So to you, what would the hidden factor be? Right?
So yeah, there's quite a few, I think, that play into what makes up procrastination. We have laziness. We have the thoughts of maybe I can't do this.
So self-doubt.
Self-doubt, yeah. And out of that comes anxiety, which is, I think, one of the pieces that I struggle with the most when it comes to procrastinating is being anxious about what happens when I do this thing.
Yeah.
Right? Can I actually do this thing? Is this something that will actually benefit me in the long run? Am I going to waste my time? All of these thoughts kind of come into our heads. And then on top of that, when you get anxious, then you kind of jump back into the habits such as scrolling through the phone or playing video games.
Which is distraction.
Which is all just distraction, right? And then the next day you think about it again and you're like, oh shit, I should have done that thing. And then the same cycle starts.
Yeah.
Right?
And you start to ruminate.
Yeah.
Right? And you start to believe that what was will always be.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that's a lot of what defeats people is they try to get momentum. They do a thing. They do it a couple times. And then suddenly they stop doing it. It's like, why? Why did I stop doing it? Well, was I getting what I anticipated from it? Like, was my curiosity pointed at a place to this activity where I'm actually feeling like I'm benefiting from it?
Yeah, and were my expectations of myself too high, or were the expectations of the activity too high in the amount of time that I gave myself?
Yeah, like there's a lot of how I make my recipe, so to speak.
Yeah.
Right? That's going to allow myself to actually cook this thing.
Yeah, exactly. So like the example here, let's just say you were wanting to go to the gym and work out. What, you go for a week and you don't see any change.
Yeah.
Well, shit. So let's just turn this over to cooking. Let's say you want to bake some muffins and you get all of the ingredients ready and you start doing the things that you need to do, and you know, like, you mix everything together perfectly, and all the liquids and the solid and the dries all go together. Everything's ready. But then you shove them in the oven for 3 minutes.
Yeah.
They're going to come out as a mushy piece of shit.
Yeah. You're like, well, I have all these ingredients. Why isn't it working?
Exactly.
Well, like the incubation period or like the implementation of it hasn't like followed through. Right? And that's where a lot of people lose kind of motivation, which is, I'm not seeing results. The thing I'm doing is not doing what I thought it was doing.
Right.
Or I put in all this effort and this is what I got.
Yeah.
Right? You're like downplaying the effect of your effort. Right? And one of the more extraordinary things is like the atomic habits idea, which is that small incremental growth.
Yeah.
But you're never going to feel that big burst if you're always doing small incremental growths. So you have to factor that in. Be like, okay, have I set up points where I'm actually acknowledging the change that I have made? And if you never have the gratitude for the small steps you've made to get to where you are now, despite just, maybe not exactly wanting to be where you are now, but also not acknowledging where you are, well, then you're just going to keep defeating yourself because you're never going to be grateful for where you are.
Yeah.
If you don't start doing that first.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Right? And that, to me, is like that momentum.
Mm-hmm.
Is being okay with what's happening now, despite how shitty it may be.
Yeah.
Because this is where I am. I
This is
can't change that.
Exactly. You can't change the past. You can't change what happened yesterday. But all you can do is change what is happening right now and in the future.
But that's where that procrastination piece comes in, right? Which is like the second part of the question, which is to unlock the full potential.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Where am I now to get to where I need to go?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Right? And that's where that journey starts.
Yeah.
Right?
Great.
Very, very small place.
Mm-hmm.
And then that growth can kind of set in.
Totally.
But let's start with question 2. So how can mastering time management skills, which is key to this, lead to greater productivity, happiness, and success in whichever ventures, personal, professional, etc.?
Interesting.
Right? So time management skills, right, being the fundamental of this question, leading to productivity, happiness, and success.
Yeah. Okay. So that's interesting because time management is kind of everything, right?
Yes.
We live in time. That is exactly what everybody is. You age, you grow up, and you die, right? And all of this happens through this specific timeline that is your life,
which is a fragment of each day.
Exactly. Yes. And so if you have no ability to tell yourself, okay, I'm going to do this at this time, and I'm going to do that thing until this time, that essentially means you lack focus. You lack the ability to be disciplined enough to tell yourself that between this time and this time that I'm going to do a certain thing that's going to be productive and progressive for me in my life, which will then bring me that happiness, will bring me that feeling of I've accomplished something, that it'll bring you the satisfaction in the day, instead of it just being immediate. Like, I'm just going to do this thing that's going to distract me until tomorrow, and then I'm going to do that thing again and do that thing again, while I hope that one day I'm going to be able to make this happen. So being able to hammer out your time management is extremely important, because if you don't give yourself any block of the day to work on further progression, you're just not going to move anywhere. You're just essentially a shark that stops swimming. Yeah,
you haven't given yourself the allocated time to reflect on those things.
Exactly. And that's why I really enjoy, in the realm of learning, using something like the Pomodoro effect or the Pomodoro technique.
Okay.
Do you know what that is?
No.
Okay. So the Pomodoro technique is allotting 25 minutes towards learning. And then after that 25-minute period, you do something fun for 5 minutes.
I have heard of this.
Yes. And then you cycle this 3 or 4 times. And now you've hit almost 2 hours of work time. And now you've achieved something. And for whatever reason, when you can put your focus on something for about 25 minutes, but after that 25 minutes, your focus starts to diminish and diminish and diminish and diminish.
Yeah.
But if you give yourself that 5 minutes to do something that you enjoy, that's fun, maybe play a VR game for 5 minutes, but only 5 minutes, now your focus will be able to come back up, and it'll be almost just as effective as it was for the first 25 minutes. Let's just say you're at 100%. You do your 25 minutes, take your 5 minutes, and now you're at 97%, and now 96% or whatever, and until you've finished your study session and you're done, and you've gotten so much more done than just trying to hammer it out for 4 straight hours, and hope that you're going to learn everything that you need to learn. This is really important. Time management is also managing the breaks, also managing the time that you're giving yourself, and not just doing the things that you want to do all of the time, but also managing when you do those things that you want to do.
Okay, so let's introduce a roadblock. So let's say whenever I'm doing something that I want, or like say I'm not doing the thing I want to do yet, but I'm currently, let's say I'm on my phone, I'm death scrolling. But I don't have, like I keep getting a jolt of gratification based on all the things that I keep scrolling and looking at. Right? So I keep being drawn back into it.
Yeah.
Right? And I would reckon you would require a interruptive tool in your mind to somehow remind you to do something else.
Yeah.
right? And I think that's an incredible point to lean on, because if you do not interrupt what you have been, let's say, ruminating on, or you keep doing something to distract yourself, like a productive thing that's not the thing you should be doing,
Yeah.
right? You're like circumventing it,
Yeah.
like you're side self-sabotaging yourself.
Right.
In that case, what would you do, right? Like for your interruptive tool.
My process is a little different
Okay.
from, I think, what your usual person would try to use in today's day and age, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I started trying to do different things. Like, okay, I'm on my phone. I'm going to give myself a little phone time.
Mm-hmm.
So I've set a timer of 10 minutes. I can be on my phone, and I go through the little videos, and then the timer goes off. And then I get up and I try to do the thing. But now my dopamine has diminished and dropped down to, nothing, because I was having all this dopamine come into my brain in such fast pace for about 10 minutes straight. And now I'm trying to go and be productive and do the thing that I think is boring, which is like hand washing dishes or whatever, right? And so I was finding that I would do that, and then I'd start doing the dishes, and then I'd be like, fuck, this is boring. I'd put the videos on in the background, and then I'd just start focusing on the videos again.
Yeah.
Right? And that, to some people that can be effective just to have background noise. That's always nice when you're doing something. But to me, going through all of these different things that I found on the internet of processes to try and use, the best that I found was just having an expectation for myself in the day at the start of the day. And then while I'm doing something like watching the videos, I am thinking about that thing.
Yeah.
Before I'm even doing it. And then as I'm watching them, even if I forget, it tends for me to just pop up. It just and then as soon as it pops up, I just throw my phone. Literally throw my phone onto my bed, onto my couch or whatever, and I just leave it there and I forget about it and I just walk away. And then now I know I have a thing to do. So instead of me going straight from phone to the thing, now I'm doing something in between that. Almost like I have a 5-minute transition period. So I'm doing 5 minutes of push-ups or squats or something, or I'm going outside, taking a breath of air.
So like a state shift.
A literal state shift and reset of my brain that is taking me away from the instant gratification of dopamine on the phone.
Which is expectation.
Which is exactly. And then from there, now that I've done that and I've done this shift in my brain, now I can go back ready and clear to be available for the other things that need to be done. That's kind of my process. Sometimes I do it perfectly. Sometimes I fuck it up, but that whenever I notice and whenever I know this is not the thing I should be doing, I always throw the phone. It's always gone. Get away from me. Like, I don't want this thing right here, right now. I need to focus on this thing. Yeah. Right. And that's been my process.
Well, it's also setting a boundary.
Yeah, totally. It's setting a boundary for myself.
Yeah.
And then it's also holding myself accountable to my word. Am I going to do this thing that I set myself the expectation of doing? No? Well, then now I'm losing value in myself. I'm losing value in my own word. And that is the worst thing that you can do as a human. If you don't hold your own word to the highest standard of value that you can build and create for yourself, well, then you're not going to do anything. You have to hold yourself at a standard, always. If you don't, it's just game over for you. You're just going to be sucked into everything. Everything material, external, is going to just pull your attention and drag you left and right.
Well, that's a clear hidden factor that we've kind of uncovered. But also it's in a productivity standpoint and happiness, like for this question, productivity 100% by what we were talking about. But for happiness, which I would say is, we were talking about expectation a little bit, but the expectation of receiving, right? It's like whenever I do anything, even if it's just like 2 minutes of playing the piano, I know I'm going to have a good time. I haven't even touched the piano yet.
Yeah.
Because I've set the precedent.
Yeah.
So when I do it, I have allowed myself to feel happy. Right? But if I never set the precedent or the intention behind doing the thing, then whatever I'm currently occupied with will be the intention.
Totally.
Which may not be what I want to feel when I'm doing that thing.
Right.
Which is why that state shift that you're mentioning is really important. Right? The throwing the phone away or doing that. So you're no longer on the expectations, like, that your short-term memory was at with the phone.
It's such a jarring interruption, the way that I do it. Like, literally, I have my phone in my hand. For the people that can't see this, I'll be on it, I'm looking at it, and then I'm just like, Like, just, it's a jarring, like, get the fuck out of here. I don't want this thing in my face anymore. Like, because I can feel it sucking my fucking attention and my energy out of my face.
Yes,
Like,
exactly.
it's just, so, and I also think one other thing that's really important to happiness in doing these things, right? If you even want to find joy in doing a chore or doing a thing, I had to do this with jujitsu a couple times and get myself back into that flow. Is not to think of it as work. Is to think of it as, I am doing something that is going to benefit me. I'm doing something that is fun, even, right? Even if it's not necessarily the most fun thing, like hand washing dishes, it can still be fun if you just let it be fun. Right? So for jiu-jitsu, it started to, especially when I was working in town, it started to become a chore, because I was like, oh, I know I'm going to have, like, and it wasn't even the jiu-jitsu that was a chore. It was the fact that I had to drive home after for an hour. That was like, oh, I have to go and work out super hard and do this thing with all these people that are going to crush me. And then after that, I'm getting hurt and I have to drive home for an hour. And it's just like, fuck, like, I don't want to. But then when I kind of just was like, no, every time I go, I never regret it. I always have a great time. So let's just change that thought process of, sure, I'm going to this thing and I'm going to get crushed, but I'm going to have a great time doing it. And then after, I have an hour to think about all of the mistakes that I made and work on them and change them. And then that just, for me, made it a lot more fun going to the class, going and being involved in that. And now that I just have to drive home 5 minutes, it's even better, because now I can go home, I can sit down, I can think about it, I can even write some things down about what I messed up on, or do this or do that. But same thing with dishes. Well, I don't really want to do that. It's not very fun. It's a chore. Well, if you don't make it a chore, well, now it's just a thing that you're doing that is productive, that is possibly fun. Who knows?
Well, that gets back into the power of language, right? Where my language can be dissonant to my goals.
Totally.
Right? But my body still wants to do it. Right? But now I have an internal conflict. Right? Like, my language is like, oh my God, I have to do this again. But you made no effort to shift your schedule, you're doing it at all, or like the way I'm approaching it. Like, none of the things shifted. I still want to do it, but my internal language is sabotaging me. Right? It's just a recipe for disaster. Right? Where the internal language now has to, even if in the moment it doesn't feel necessarily the most true, like, let's say I love this. Like, this is the language I'm putting in my head. Like, I love doing this. This is amazing. Whenever I do it, I feel awesome. And I keep saying that in my head. My body doesn't fucking know what my eyeballs and my senses are seeing or feeling.
No.
It's my internal dialogue that's converting that thought process into like an agreement with my body.
And a lot of people think that internal dialogue is just automated. It's just like, like you're thinking, and then the it's just taking the reins and doing them. And sometimes
which it is.
It is taking the reins.
Is.
Yeah, but then once you interrupt that, just like we were talking about a second ago with the throwing the phone away, right? Once you interrupt it,
now you become the director.
You're like, okay, now I'm thinking of this thing. It's not that thing is thinking of this thing in my brain that is controlling my body now, and controlling my mood, and controlling what I'm wanting to do, or this or that. It's now I am in control. And the idea is, once you've realized that you are in control, now it's about holding that control as long as physically possible, and making that control be just extending it, right? Because you can have such little control. You can have 5 minutes where you feel like or even seconds. You can be like, okay, I'm thinking consciously for 5 seconds at a time, and then I lose that conscious thought, and then it just goes back to this monkey mind, right? That's fine. But as soon as you notice that, go back to it. Try to make it 10 seconds. Try to make it 15 seconds. Try to make it an hour after a couple weeks or months or whatever, right? But it's just growing that until you are the one that's in control almost all of the time. And once you become in control most of the time, and your thoughts are always geared towards progression and doing this and doing that, then your subconscious thoughts will then likely start turning into that, because that's what you've geared yourself towards. It's all about what you're used to, right? If you're used to sitting around and being lazy, well, your body's going to be used to sitting around and being lazy. So it's going to want to sit around and be lazy, because that's what you've built yourself to do. The human body is so incredible, because it's just like, oh, you want to sit around and be fat and lazy all day? Well, then I'm going to make you sit around and be fat and lazy all day. I'm going to make you not excited to go out and do these other things that are more difficult, or that'll put you into a good shape or whatever. But that's the cool thing about it is like as soon as you put yourself in that space in your brain, now you're just slowly but surely starting to make that your reality because you're in control. It's no longer just the monkey brain saying, fuck it, do whatever you want, be lazy. Like,
Yeah,
exactly.
There's a lot that packs in there, but we'll move on to the next question. So, what are the most effective strategies for managing stress and maintaining emotional well-being in today's world? So, I'll repeat. What are the most effective strategies, at least this is in our own opinion, for managing stress
Right.
and maintaining emotional well-being?
I'll let you take the lead on that.
Okay. So, strategies in particular, but stress. I'll start with stress because for me, I personally, in my perception, feel like I don't get very stressed. Just in terms of where my emotions lift me to a place and where I decide where I've been lifted to, whether it's let's say it's an initial burst of anger, which rarely happens, but let's say it was something happened and my body got excited because I was put into a survival situation, right? And my state has been shifted from my environment and my experience. But in terms of stress, I've said it before, which is how did I pick it up, which may have been involuntary in this circumstance, but where did I put it down? Like, where did I find these feelings, understand these feelings, whatever happened, and then where did I place that and where I am now?
Yeah.
And I'll give you an example. So like that survival situation, let's say I felt angry, scared, and confused, per se.
Yeah.
Right? And immediately it's like, well, how do I rectify that feeling, that sensation? Because it's now active in my body, right? Which is to be, in my mind, what I do is, what is the best place I could be in my mind that would help the situation? It doesn't even have to be those words that appear in my mind. It's literally just an instinct at this point to be, okay, I am best suited to be calm, level-headed, and clear in this moment.
Yeah.
So the first thing that I do is I put myself in that position. I state shift.
Right.
Right? Whether it's through breathing or just like super focused on it, or like something that breaks wherever my body was at.
Right.
And then that's my strategy for managing that stress, because now I can actively see the situation with calm, clear, and collected eyes.
Totally. So, and that's theoretical, obviously.
This is theoretical.
I would say you haven't been in a actual survival situation too recently.
No, but let's say it's.
Mindset. But let's
say you're on the
biking,
road.
Let's just say your biking
Sure.
incident. Yeah, bring that up. Go ahead. Off your biking incident with the truck.
Oh, I'll just story tell?
Yeah,
okay,
story time.
So ripping down the fucking side of the road, clear. I saw a truck a fair bit forward. So I just kept maintaining course. I saw as I'm ripping down this hill, truck didn't move. No one went in, no one went out. I didn't even see, like, I saw this for a long while away. No movement. So I'm like, all right, keep going. The truck is parked parallel or beside a bus stop, and it has a glass cage on it, so there's a very small space band between the truck, which is butted up in this place it shouldn't be, which is in the bike or the bus lane, and then there's a box. So I had basically a narrow band to rip between the truck and this box. And literal second before I'm passing this truck, the door opens immediately, full open, and then boom, fucking bike collapses to the lower half. My chest, or rather my like shoulders, was like basically crossbarred at the top of the door, and my neck hit the top of the door. And then my head basically kind of like cucked forward a little bit like a chicken. Yeah. And then that was basically it. However, in this situation, I did what very few people probably would have done, just in the immediate moment, is I immediately went from confused to okay to relatively funny moment in my mind to buddy. I looked left, like the moment that happened, and the shock on the guy's face as he opened the door made me burst in laughter. And I'm like, you should probably pay attention next time, and just left. Like, it was the most just like kind of moment where instead of like getting mad or being angry or being confused, I had no room for that, because immediately my mind just swapped to, what just happened? I'm okay. Let's keep going.
Right. Totally.
And any other feeling just washed away because I'd put it down in a place where I'm like, yeah, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
It is what it is. What's happened happened. I'm okay. He's okay. We're good.
Yeah.
And then obviously you, in your mind, you learn from that experience, but okay, why did that happen? How did it happen? Could it have been prevented? If not, what could I have done differently? If I would have done anything differently, blah, right? And then you review the moment. However, in this circumstance, in my own approach, my day carried on and I felt fine.
Yeah.
Right? Like my mind wasn't altered. Like I wasn't put in a compromised position where I was like anxious or uneasy, or like this didn't linger in my mind to affect the rest of my day.
Yeah. There might have been this state of like brief snap kind of speed of stress as the door was open. You're like shit, and then hit the thing. And then
I just went full
fine.
relax. I was like,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah, just let it happen.
Yeah.
This is happening now.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I didn't go into opposition to it, right? Like I
Right.
didn't entangle my identity to, oh my God, blah, 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 blah. And
Why did this have to happen to me?
Yeah.
Or like, what the fuck? Why weren't you looking? And
Yeah,
like,
I wasn't
getting
making
angry or,
anything,
like nothing like that. Like,
no.
and that's so much more of a mature way to handle something like that. That's the best way you could probably go about it.
Yeah, because I had full justification to explode on the guy.
Totally.
Because one, he didn't even look when he opened his door. His
Yeah.
head was literally turning the
Two,
opposite
he's parked
direction.
in a bus stop where he shouldn't
yeah.
be in the first place.
Well, he was talking to the driver.
Right. Yeah.
While he opened the door.
Yeah. So like not looking in the slightest. Just
However, this was that kind of example.
yeah.
But then like perfect effective strategy that I used was that state shift, which I explained, and then leading to greater, rather managing stress, right? So like I wasn't stressed after that happened because I had allowed myself to put that event down and not burden myself throughout the day. And then the maintaining emotional well-being, well, I wasn't in a state of stress to be stressed because I had already allowed that to be in the past.
Right.
I wasn't maintaining that as like I'm holding this over my head, like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened, blah, 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 and like that kind of idea. Like I wasn't grumbling about it.
Yeah.
Right. I wasn't ruminating and letting those thoughts like seep deeper into my mind to allow myself to get
Yeah. It was just a
perpetually
move
annoyed.
on.
Yeah, it was just immediately move on.
Yeah.
And then in a fast-paced world today, like we always have to keep moving on, right? Like you can't linger in something that happened 10 years ago because it will affect you now.
Yeah.
And I would argue that there are things that happened 10 years ago that are affecting you now.
Yeah.
Right now, this is basically like the opportunity to recognize these things in our past that are affecting our current mind state that we haven't put down yet.
Yeah.
That is allowing procrastination and stress and other things because it is interacting in our mind as we exist, right? Like every day, every moment.
Yeah. Yeah. That's definitely like very true. And as I've, talked about the fact that I'm in jiu-jitsu, that's probably where I learn the most about these kinds of skills, right? Is because when you have a guy that's a lot bigger than you, or even a person that's not a lot bigger than you, but can feel a lot bigger than you when they're sitting on your chest or when they're chest to chest with you and you're getting crushed and you have absolutely no way to get your arms back in front of you to make that space. It just feels like pure panic.
Like suffocating.
Absolutely. Because it is essentially like they have their fucking sweaty shirt in your mouth and it's just like all over your face and it's like you're getting waterlogged. It's terrible.
Yeah.
But when I first started, and sometimes I still get stuck in this position because some people are really good at just smother tapping me, but generally at the start I would get really claustrophobic and I would panic and then I'd tap and I'd just be done, right? But as I go through learning the sport and through learning, okay, I have other options here besides just giving up and just essentially dying, because that's what when you lose in jiu-jitsu, you're dying. That's essentially what's happening. You just died to this person. So that gives me the opportunity to go through the thought process in my mind. Okay, can you breathe first? That's the first step. Can you breathe? I can breathe. Okay, so I can. It smells funny, but I can breathe. And then, okay, so now that means I can relax. What movements can I do from here? And that just kind of going through the thought process of first, I can breathe, so I'm good. Like I'm okay. I can calm down.
Yeah.
No need to stress out. Now I can think about what's the next step. What's the next step? What's the next step? What's the next step? Okay, now maybe I can get an arm here, and then I can knock them off balance, and that'll give me the opportunity to quickly slink out, and I'll try it. But then sometimes it doesn't work, and then they get onto my chest even harder, and I'm like, oh God, okay, now back to step number 1. Can I breathe? Am I okay? Everything's okay. I can breathe. Let's keep going. Next step, and really just doing that kind of glided into the rest of my life. If there's something stressful happening, and there's a difference between physical stress and emotional stress, and we can look at that maybe another day or today, whatever. But in the realm of physical stress, that's kind of the process that I've taken now. Is can I breathe? Am I safe? Am I okay? Is everything going to be all right? Yes. Okay. Now we can do the next thing. No, I'm not safe. Okay, well, what's still the next thing? We need to stay calm, make sure we're breathing, and now we need to find the next thing that we can do to get to safety. And then once we're back to safety, everything's okay.
Yeah.
Managing stress is super important, and that's one of the number one things that I'm taking away from jiu-jitsu, and why I love it so much is because it, in so many other places in the world, has helped me just manage with other things.
Yeah. Well, you have to coexist.
Exactly. Yeah. Because you're never going to, stress isn't something that you learn. Stress is just, it's natural.
It's inevitable.
It's inevitable. It's a thing. Like animals, if it was a learned behavior, animals wouldn't be stressed, but animals are stressed when a tiger is chasing them. Right?
Yes, but then you notice the moment the tiger's not there, they are super relaxed.
They're super relaxed.
They're on like
alert.
a hair trigger. Yeah.
They're like, huh? Where's the thing? No, but they're chill.
Yeah.
They're back to, okay, we're relaxing, we're resting, we're getting our energy back, we're okay. Everything's fine. Moving on. Right?
Yeah, which is a fair point to make, which is no being, no animal, no nothing can maintain a heightened level of stress permanently or chronically, right? Because at a certain point, it's like having your engine on forever.
Yeah.
Right? Like shit just is going to wear down and break down.
Yeah. Stress kills people all the time.
Yeah.
Because people let stress get to them.
Yeah. And which is a mental stress,
Yeah.
which becomes physical pain.
Yeah.
Right? Or physical harm or like whatever it is. Right?
Yeah.
But let's lead into the next question, which is our perception of control over our lives and circumstances an illusion? Or can we truly take charge and create the life we desire? So say it one more time. Is our perception of control over our lives and circumstances an illusion? Or can we truly take charge and create the life we desire? Right?
Yeah, totally. So, and just coming from the whole topic here, which is procrastination, if you are prone to procrastination and you don't practice anything to combat procrastination, then I think, it is kind of an illusion. Because if you're a procrastinator, you're never going to do the things that you need to do to make your life happen.
Yeah.
So if you learn, first step there would be to learn how to not procrastinate. And then, okay, now that you're not procrastinating on everything, like there's going to be some things that you just procrastinate on because you're going to be so busy with all these other things that some things are going to get pushed to the side. It's going to be intentional procrastination at that point.
Yeah, like let's say doubt isn't a part of this.
Exactly. Yeah. So doubt isn't a factor. It's just more like, okay, there's this thing that I'd like to do, but it's not as important as this thing. So I'm going to push that off to the side. And that's okay, right? Because you have more good priorities that you're going after.
Yeah.
So once you pass the hill of procrastination and you step over that hill and you look down to the other side, well, now you're not blocked by all the things that make up procrastinating, right? You're not blocked by the doubt. You're not blocked by the anxiety and the fear and the your friends telling you that you're probably not going to be able to do it and all of that leads you up to not being able to make your dreams happen, right? Because you're procrastinating on them. You're procrastinating. Let's just say you want to be a professional bodyweight or bodybuilder, and your friends say you're never going to do it, and you keep believing that, and you keep going back to these same people, and you don't put yourself in a new environment that's going to build you up to be a professional bodybuilder.
Yeah.
Well, then you're never going to make your dreams happen. As soon as you remove yourself from that scenario and you put yourself into a new scenario and you give yourself people or things that will gear you towards making that success happen, then yes, of course you can achieve your dreams. Anybody can achieve anything. It doesn't really matter where you come from, what's going on in your life. You can make something happen in your life. It doesn't matter who you are or where you come from, what you're doing right now. if you make a cardinal shift in your mind and you make a change in your surroundings, anything is possible.
Yeah. And in order to do that, you have to be willing, right? You have to be willing and curious to find.
Totally.
Because if you're trying to cope, let's say you're in a position where in order to maintain where you are now, you have to be in a constant state of instant gratification and whatever it is that takes you, well, rather will maintain your position, right? All the things that you're doing that may be self-sacrificial, but are on the other hand, moderately uplifting, let's say. And in order to change or have control over your life, you believe that you have no choice. And this is where the illusion's at, right? The illusion in the perception of not having a choice.
Yeah.
Right? And this is where another big, I think, blockage is to people is from the previous, let's say, circumstance, position, condition, upbringing, etc. allows them the limiting belief that this is not an option. Right? And that is a massive hidden factor for procrastination.
Yeah.
Because underlying the behavior or the activity that you haven't even started yet is a fucking rat chipping away at your foundation, eating the fucking bedrock.
Yeah.
Right? Which is just in your mind saying, oh, I didn't even realize I could have done that. I should have done that. And that's where all the regret comes from.
Yeah.
Right? I should have, could have, whatever.
You know you can.
You know you can. You just, in the moment, it was so much easier to say, oh, I can't do that. And then now I don't have to do it. So you don't.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's also procrastination.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too and that's why I kind of mentioned your surroundings is, I've had ideas that I really was passionate about and I thought great things of, but that are no longer a factor in my life because people said you're delusional, you're a dreamer, you're doing this, you're doing that, and then I would be okay. Well, I guess I'm delusional and dreamer and can't do it, right? And then I would believe that, and then those people kind of phased out, or their opinions of me no longer became a problem or a factor in my life, and now things change. And this is how you make great change, right? Is you have to hold, like I was saying earlier, hold your word with more value over anything else.
Yeah, you can't be entirely neutral. Ideally, maybe, but I don't think it's possible because you have to decide with hopeful evidence that you've collected that your idea is right for you.
Yeah.
And their perception or their criticism is just criticism and an opinion.
Totally.
Because they don't know who you are, what you're doing, or what you need to do.
And that's really all it is.
Desires.
That's really all it is. And when people say these things, you now have a choice to say they're right and give in to what they're saying, or take that as a fucking fire under your ass to get moving and prove them wrong. Those are the two different ways to go about it. And if people, they still see you succeeding and going for it and doing that, and they keep saying that,
become undeniable.
Exactly. Yeah. And then you don't even have to respond to them anymore at that point. You don't have to respond to them in the first place. You can say, well, I see your opinion, but maybe that's not something you can do, but I'm going to go for it. Yeah. And I'm going to try it. And I'm going to do it.
Yeah. And the other side of that is if someone else's perception of what you're doing hurts their self-confidence because you're doing something that they want to do but aren't, they're also going to talk shit because they want you to not succeed because they want to feel like their actions are also okay by not doing it.
Yeah, and they're essentially wanting to keep you in the place that they're stuck in.
Yes.
Right? Because let's just say it's a friend that you've known forever and that you guys have done the same things, and then you go and try to do this thing and work out, and they're like, oh, now you're too good for me or something like that.
And to me, that's not valid criticism.
It's not, but that does get a lot of people.
Yes.
Right? That's the crazy thing is that people get caught by that. They're like, oh, well, I'm not too good for you. We can hang out and go eat some fucking popcorn and chips and fucking smoke weed or whatever, right? Like all that kind of stuff. That gets people all the time. It's just like these weird
creature comfort.
Totally, but it's so bizarre to me that humans, when we are such a progressive animal, don't try to push each other to be more and more and more. And I think it's just because we're at this level of comfort where we don't need to go for more and more and more. We're just so comfortable that now when people go further past the quota of what a regular life would entail, that is like, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you doing that? Why would you, like, we can just be comfy and do these things that we like to do,
Yes.
and we don't have to go for those things because other people are going to do that.
Yeah, it's like union work.
Yeah.
Right? Like everyone wants the standard to be lower so they don't have to do as much. And
Right.
whenever there's an outlier, it's like, well, fuck, why is Jimmy doing 17 times more than us?
Yeah.
Well, now we look like shit.
Yeah, well, and why is that guy making so much more money when behind the scenes that guy's doing so much more work and like
Yeah.
proving himself, right?
Yeah.
And then they look at him and they try to make fun of him for it, and they're like, oh well, oh Mr. Tryhard, like
Yeah,
people
exactly.
saying that you're a teacher's pet in school. It's
Yeah.
just like, what's wrong with that?
So they can feel better by not doing anything.
Yeah, it's
That's
just
literally it.
crazy.
It's jealousy.
It is, absolutely.
Right? But then that's where it's like, okay, how well have I interpreted people's comments that were like this in my whole past?
Mm-hmm.
It's a big fucking time. My whole past that I'm holding now, that are limiting beliefs that I didn't decide, that someone else decided for me, that I accepted in a state of weakness.
Right.
How many of those do I have that I'm holding now?
Yeah.
Right? And I would argue that's where you need to start.
Right.
Right? Giving yourself the credence you deserve because you're here now. You're fucking here now. You're
Yeah.
making your mind is on a position where I am now deciding where I want to go.
Yeah.
Might as well start with all the shit that I've felt about myself that I'm not enough and change those perceptions.
Yeah. Like The Rock said it perfectly. One day or day one,
Yeah.
right? Day one is going to be better than one day every time.
Yes.
Right? I'm starting now.
It's always day one.
Absolutely. Every day is a new day. Every day is that's why no matter how angry, let's just theoretically, how theoretically angry I am going to bed, I'll always wake up the next morning in a great mood. I'll always wake up the next morning not dwelling on what happened that night before. Or let's just say I stubbed my toe 10 times and I was pissed off. I went to bed, I woke up, okay, well, everything's great. Everything's fine. Why do I have to worry about that? That's yesterday. This is now.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then since we don't have too much time, we'll do a last little quick question.
Okay.
Why is self-compassion often overlooked but essential for mental health and resilience? Self-compassion being overlooked, which is essential for mental health and resilience. Right? Because I would reckon this is where love is.
Yeah.
This is where kindness is.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But it's not that anything always has to be directed at someone else.
Yeah.
Or at something in particular.
Yeah,
It's
and-
like holding it itself within you.
Yeah, totally.
With yourself, about yourself.
Yeah. And you're not, and that's one thing that I have always been interested by is when people demand compassion from others, right? Because they should be able to find compassion in themselves, for themselves, right? If you can't be compassionate for yourself and you rely on everybody else to give you compassion, well, that's like, you're not going to find many people that are going to be able to always do that for you.
Yes.
Right? That's hugely important. So you have to kind of build this compassion basis that you can apply to yourself and say,
Yeah.
okay, there's a couple things that I need to invest time into to be able to build this resilience and build myself up, right? Like, let's just say I have been really down and hard on myself, and I've been trying to do this thing and failing over and over and over again, and I just am hard on myself every single time that I fuck up. Every single time. Like that can be effective, right? But sometimes you have to be able to look at yourself and be like, okay, where am I making a mistake?
Yeah.
And right now, is everything okay? Am I okay? Like check in, do some introspective work,
Yeah.
and really make yourself understand that your situation isn't that bad and that you can make a change happen through just being compassionate with yourself. You can think about these things. You can think about the way that your brain works by just doing that introspective work and then applying some compassion to those things and those areas that you suck at. And then hopefully that'll be able to be built up to a new level, or make this compassion the standard or the foundation of everything.
Yeah.
And then build up from there.
Yeah. Like the way that I think about it, it's like a self-generating engine. Right? Where I put a little bit of love for myself in, and I get like threefold every time.
Yeah.
Right? So I stoke the fire a little bit,
Yeah.
feel great, do some things, expend some energy, restoke. bring myself back up a little bit so I can perform well,
Yeah.
use that energy a little bit. It'll kind of diminish, and then I'll restoke.
Yeah, like just saying the words "I kick ass"
Yeah.
every once in a while it just like right away put a smile on my face. I kick ass,
Dude,
and I
yeah, just smiling itself.
Totally. It's a healing potion. You just like
It is a
put a
healing
smile in
potion.
your face, and everything gets better. It's just great,
Yeah, I mean, it sounds silly, but it's true.
right?
Like, even just like when I'm doing a run,
Yeah,
I will just randomly smile, put my arms in the air, and I will be faster immediately with less resistance.
yeah, that's great.
Literally.
Yeah.
I do it every time
That's awesome.
without fail multiple times.
That's hilarious.
And it works. It's
And it
just
works,
simply
yeah.
effective.
Totally.
Because my director, my brain, my thoughts is telling my arms to go up and to put a smile on my face, and then feeling my self-compassion, which is just love itself about anything, because I'm here and I'm existing. It's awesome.
Yeah.
In my own experience, I'm enjoying it. Therefore, that's now I'm like reseeding all of what I'm producing.
Yeah.
I'm
totally.
producing this happiness and this love with myself, for the things that I'm doing, because I'm deciding that I'm going to be productive or helpful or whatever, and I'm enjoying the process of doing that.
Yeah.
Well, now I can put some more stocks in myself, about myself, and be like, yeah, I can do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you just slowly build on this, and then that becomes a restoking engine that can solidify itself, because you have the belief that it can.
Totally. Yeah.
Right?
And that's also like a factor into like applying compassion to yourself towards, like, let's just say towards your anxieties or something like that. Applying it to that will just build up back to the point, which is procrastination. That'll get in the way. That'll almost act as an interrupting agent.
It will.
Right? Especially with the thing like the smiling.
Yeah.
Just like you're feeling down and out. Well, smile. Try it.
Because you're alive.
Exactly.
You have the opportunity to change.
You have a 0.1 in a billion trillion chance to be born as a human being on planet Earth.
Yes.
Like, come on, feel a little bit of fucking compassion for yourself in that moment right now.
Yeah.
Just hearing this, like,
You're fucking alive,
you're
bro.
alive. You were floating through the universe for 14 point whatever billion years, doing nothing, just as nothing, and now here you are.
Dude, we are literal earth dust and vapor
Yeah,
that turned into a living thing.
that can think and breathe and go for great, amazing things.
Yeah.
How crazy is that?
Fucking crazy.
Fucking crazy.
Well, I hope everyone enjoyed the conversation, and fucking great day to you.
Yeah. We'll see you next time.
Take care.